It's Power Hour LSU.
Man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter.
Come on, PHL Nation. I need as much energy in the chat because we have the great John Eads joining us. I am going into full baseball mode, baby. The powerhouse coming for 3 natties under Jay Johnson in 4 seasons. You don't have to worry about the Vitellos of the world. He went to the major leagues. And look, I am on cloud 9 talking about LSU baseball. Are you freaking kidding me? We're going to do a full roster breakdown, also managing expectations going into this next year. And of course, John Eads has done better coverage than anyone when it comes to local TV and the LSU baseball team. But obviously, you are here mostly for LSU football. And I want to talk about something called play action. All right. So LSU is going to play at a faster pace. I think a lot of us can just come to that conclusion. But what's very interesting is when you actually dive a little bit deeper, you will begin to see how big of a deal play action passing actually is. And I am of the belief that you should follow the people that have been successful because success leaves clues. I don't know who I should attribute that quote to, but I heard some coach say that once. Success leaves clues. And you see, of the SEC quarterbacks this past season, you see Joey Aguilar, who no one really thought was going to be good this year. And you also see Trinidad Chambliss right now on your screen as 2 of the highest play action passing rate quarterbacks in all of college football. You also see a name by the name of Brendan Sorsby there. You want to know why I was so high on LSU going after Brendan Sorsby? It's because Brendan also was a heavy play action quarterback. And I do think he was the best quarterback in the transfer portal. Sam Leavitt, though, was a close second. And you'll see that Colton Joseph was by far the leader in college football when it comes to play action drop back percentage rate. Guess what? We brought in a wide receiver from Old Dominion by the name of Trey Brown. So we did a film study not too long ago on what the Charlie Weiss offense could actually look like going into next season. But to me, the biggest thing from watching just this is that play action is going to be so big for our entire operation. So we go down to LSU. Let's increase the rows here. It's data via PFF. And you could see Michael Van Buren's play action rate was 27.1%, and Garrett Nussmeier's was 22.6%. And more importantly, Sam Leavitt was at 29.6%. So what does that mean? Well, you look at LSU last year, we were a team. For those that don't know what play action is, it's basically when you go back to pass and it starts with a fake, more often than not, to the running back, a fake handoff to the running back, and you're actually going back to pass the football. I think a lot of you knew that already, but look, whether you did or you didn't, play action is effective. And you saw there, I don't think anyone would have thought going into this last season that Joey Aguilar was actually going to be pretty good for Tennessee, and he was mostly effective for the Volunteers. Trinidad Chambliss, the same thing was true. He was very, very, very good for Ole Miss. I don't think any one of us expected Trinidad Chambliss to potentially have been the Heisman winner. If he started the season, like I've shared plenty of times, he would have been in New York City for Ole Miss this past season. Play action is a cheat code. It really is. Now, it is more effective if you can run the football. That is the biggest thing. I think a lot of you are wondering, can we actually see a good run game for LSU for the first time in forever? Yeah, I think you will see a better run game for LSU this next year. So the next thing that I do want to bring up as far as how different the offense is going to look is just how much faster things are going to be for LSU. I do think if I were a modern day offensive coordinator, I would go fast. I would. And it's not necessarily for rhythm. It's not necessarily for let's just get as many plays in as we possibly can. It's more so because it limits what you can do defensively. If the offense is consistently going at a rapid pace, it is so hard to adjust what you need to do defensively to what the other team is doing offensively. So when you look at this from an LSU perspective, I am so excited that our offense is going to be moving at a faster pace. And one big thing, if you are a wide receiver, that is a bit of a change because you do need to hurry and get the football back to the referee so we can get on to the next play. So speed does matter when it comes to what LSU is going to do this next season. And for me, I do think LSU going at a faster pace will make life a lot easier on what should be a better offensive line for the Tigers. Now, one thing that I feel is going to be so important for LSU this next season is the offensive line development. I think a lot of you agree with that. One thing that's very interesting from, an LSU perspective is still the talk of the NFL is the Super Bowl, whether it be Bad Bunny or whether it be the ratings that just came out. It was a slightly lower rated Super Bowl than last year, but it's practically the same. But outside of the quarterbacks and Kenneth Walker, Will Campbell is still in the crosshairs of everyone. So Will did come out and say, I apologize for not speaking to the media. I didn't want to say anything out of the ordinary, and he took full responsibility for a tough game. One thing that I found to be so fascinating, and I have never seen this for any other player that I can even remember, is that LSU and Will Campbell, this, I guess you could say, last 48 hours, there are so many legendary offensive linemen coming out and slamming Will Campbell's technique as an offensive tackle. And I think what's happened is Will Campbell was criticized for having shorter arms. And there was plenty of people out there that say you shouldn't draft Will Campbell because of his arm length. Well, I have watched people that know way more about offensive line play than I ever will. And I understand I'm a film study guy, but, I've always said like the miniature blade of grass, toenail, mechanical technique stuff, I will never reach what people that have actually played the game or coached the game at a high level. I'll never reach a level of knowledge. But what I would tell you is I spent hours today watching multiple offensive line breakdowns of Will Campbell. One by Mitchell Schwartz. I read a bunch of tweets from Willie Anderson and other, Hall of Famers, and they were destroying his technique. And a lot of them kept saying the same thing. It's not an arm length thing. It's not. Now, many would acknowledge, yeah, you would prefer to have 34-inch arms or whatever the hell it is. But they're talking about his technique. And guess what? I've shared this before, and this isn't just, beating a dead horse with Brad Davis, but going into the pre-draft process last year, there were a lot of people talking about Emory Jones's technique, and his offensive line coach was the same for 3 years. Now, I like Brad Davis. I don't think any of you just disliked him personally, but what I would tell you is, man, it was fascinating to see people that have played this game at a high level break down Will's technique, which it doesn't matter as much in college because, you are so physically superior and just better. And Will's technique was fine in college. I've always said that when it comes to losing the rep at first and resetting and winning the rep while it happens, Will is the absolute best I've ever seen. He never gives up on a play. He's really good at when he does get bull rushed, fighting back and resetting. It is so much harder to do that at the NFL level. So there are two good things about this. Number one, Brad Davis is no longer here. But as I was watching these breakdowns, what if it is indeed true that Brad Davis is the single worst offensive line coach we've ever seen at the SEC level? What if that is true? I think some of you already believe that, but it's impossible for us to really gauge Brad Davis versus every other offensive line coach that has ever been at LSU. But, this idea started forming in my head about, well, what if Weston Davis was just coached so unfreaking believably bad that we just need someone else in there to coach him? We just, even if you don't think Eric Walford is Jeff Southland, if you will, or Eric Bindabau or Dante Scarnacchia, right? The great offensive line coaches that are Hall of Famers, or Sam Pittman, if you will. Even if you don't think Walford is on that level of offensive line coaching, what if Brad Davis was just so bad that Weston Davis just needed somebody else? And that can happen. That can happen where almost everything you're being taught in college is the opposite of what you should be doing. Now, once again, it is over my head when it comes to high-level offensive line technique, right? When I do film analysis, it's clear when your pad level is too high and you're getting bull rushed that you should have done something different. But, that kind of gave me hope. That kind of gave me hope that Will's technique is going to obviously change going into this next season. But what if Will, over the 3 seasons with Brad Davis, just had such poor coaching that some of the things that he did wasn't what he needed to do to get ready for the NFL. But he was still talented enough himself to have success. And just take a look what the market did this offseason. There are quite a few teams that in the SEC took LSU's offensive linemen in the transfer portal, even though they weren't any good. Texas A&M got Cohen Eccles. Mississippi State took DJ Chester. Obviously, we saw Carius Kern go to Ole Miss. What if they're like, hey, these guys are talented. They're just not being coached well. It was a bad OC, bad head coach, bad offensive line coach. Maybe it is those things. Maybe, just maybe. So, whoever took my catalytic convert, oh God. It was out of Jamie. Good to see you. Next thing regarding the LSU offense going into next year is so much is going to be made better by having Jordan Seaton there. But, we've already done a few breakdowns of the weak link theory on the offensive line. There is going to be a lot of you that will be watching Alou Ba. That is a name that you must keep an eye out for as we move forward. Julie, thank you so much for the super chat. And she says, I think, let me see. I think this supports the whole theory that all of our offensive line were just these talented 4- and 5-star guys. They were just not getting coached well at LSU, says Julie. I agree. And once again, going faster helps, and just having better play calling is going to help. It's going to give you a leg up in many ways. We just didn't have a whole lot schemed open for us the past couple of seasons. That also helps out your offensive line. Play action helps out your offensive line. Rolling out, quarterback mobility. So I'm going to be very fascinated just from, a sample size um, situation here. I'm going to be very interested to see once we get more snaps from the players we had last year, if they're good at another place. It was the fact that our coaching was so bad last year. Um, I look at LSU football as a whole. I saw All Things Go tweet something out a little bit earlier about one of my good buddies, Ron Brooks. I still talk to Ron. He was a good player for the 2011 LSU defense, led the team in pick sixes, was just a great number 6 DB. And it's interesting now that it's really hard to develop that depth in college football, but I still think it's doable. I do. It's you're never going to be as deep as a team like 2011 is going to be. And one thing I've been working on this new recruit project. It's going to be called Recruit Wheel. All right, I spin a wheel and I do research on just some random recruit just to see how good of a player they were. It's just something I've always wanted to do. I dive deep into recruiting data all the time, and so many of these, and I literally just spin a number 1 to 1,000, pick a year, and I've been getting a lot of 3-star DBs, a lot, and just 3-star everything. I've been spinning a lot of 3-stars, and if you're spinning a number between 1 and 1,000, and more than half of those numbers are going to be 3 or 2-star recruits, that's what you're going to get. But it is amazing how many glue guys I have spun, right? Guys that were good middle of the road recruits for the teams that they went to. And that is so important. That is so important, because a lot of those guys tend to get better as the season moves on. I think a good example of this was 2019 LSU with Kerry Vincent. Kerry Vincent, as the season moved on, ended up being one of the better DBs in the SEC. Now, it wasn't the case early, but as the season moved on, he just kept getting better and better and better. Now, I saw the clip earlier. The reason I want to bring up Ron Brooks is when you look at LSU this past season, they were really good in the secondary when it came to the weak links of the secondary. We have spent so much time talking about the weak link theory on offensive line. In the secondary, it also applies because, you can match up hunt, right? Um, for me, I look at this LSU secondary where I'm not sure if there's a weak link. There really wasn't one even last year. And to me, it just comes down to who is going to step up as that 5th DB. Because I do think LSU is going to play a nickel that will be more of a defensive back type of player, whether that be Ty Benefield or Deshaun Spears, someone along those lines. Maybe it's DeMarcus Cooley instead of a linebacker. So you're going to have more 5 defensive back lineups where, look, you might be in a spot where your secondary as a whole might be better than what it was last year. Now, the likelihood of that happening is low because Delane and Halsey were so good. But you got to remember your secondary is greatly improved by a better pass rush. If Prince Will lives up to his expectations, secondary is going to be better. Your linebacker core has a huge impact on your secondary. Well, LSU's linebacker core should be better with Daugherty and a healthy Whit Weeks. So I do think when I look at this secondary, you're not going to have a secondary where your 6th best DB is going to be the leader in pick sixes on a defense like it was with Ron Brooks back in 2011. Maybe it could be. I don't know. But I do think the secondary is going to be good. I really, really, really do think so. And part of that is because I do think the pass rush will be better. And I do think Blake Baker is going to be better going into next year. Let's go to Keith. I'm a Caden Durham guy if the field is spread. So that is the poll question for today. LSU's leading rusher will be Harlan Berry, currently winning the poll at 63%. So, I think it's going to be Caden Durham. I do. I'm still that big of a believer in his ability. I think it's going to be really close. I think they'll both end up having about like 600, 700 yards. Something along those lines. So I'm excited. I'm really, really, really excited. Before we get John Eads on here in a second, I do want to give you my thoughts on LSU baseball. I love Kason Evans. I love me some Monster Milam. But Curiel has a chance to, get into this Monster Milam tier of greatness. I say Monster Milam. I meant to say Mikey Matuk. Into that realm, that Jared Mitchell, most outstanding player of the College World Series realm. And Curiel, Cali boy, great story. His dad had a full all-out batting cage in their backyard. Guy's just a battler. So really high on Derek Curiel going into this next year. Love me some Jake Brown and the mustache. Love to see that. Love seeing that a Pearson is still on this team. John Pearson, of course, older brother, won 2 natties with LSU. And, we'll see what Chris Stanfield can do going into this next season. But this is a full roster look at what the LSU baseball team is going to look like. Nick Curry is a big supporter of PHL. I appreciate that. And he is happy to share this chart with you. I truly think LSU baseball, just based on what I've read, could be a more complete team than what it was last year. This was a ridiculously talented freshman class. You look at what LSU can do this next season as far as on the mound. You're not going to have Anderson, of course, who's just going to be who just was phenomenal for LSU last year. But man, this team is loaded. It just is. Okay. Now, once again, I can't name probably more than 3 other SEC players on all the other teams. I don't know many people that actually I do know a lot of people that can. But I'm very high on college baseball moving forward as a sport. I think it has a chance to cut into some of the market share of MLB. And, I think this season, LSU fans won't be disappointed if we don't win a natty. But if they don't make it to Omaha, it is a disappointment. It is. Like, I think you get a little spoiled, in the famous words of philosopher Brian Kelly. If you don't, if you're like, yeah, we got to win the natty every year. Now, Jane Johnson can have that mindset. He does have that mindset. But, I got to be honest, Ian. It's Omaha or bust for this team. But, yeah, the people that really, really, really are stitch heads, D1 baseball, read them. Kendall Rogers, Aaron Fitt, those guys. Man, they're in on LSU. They are in. That's why I'm wearing my Powerhouse shirt. I love it. My dad got me this for my birthday, and I love that it says the power at the top. There's nothing like this sport, though, man. There really is nothing like college baseball. So, I sort of slided Seth Dardar in this graphic, but already chose 11 expected starters. Let's go to Keith. We get to play Coastal Carolina's old coach at Tennessee. Should be interesting. Yeah, I mean, Look, this will be the last time I'll say this. I don't like that Tony V is no longer here. I don't like it. I need Tony Vitello back. I love him, man. Every sport needs a true a-hole. And I really don't think he's every interview you listen to him, he comes off as an interesting, cool guy. But I'm talking about someone that's not afraid to lean into being the villain. Every sport needs that. And I think we're missing that with Tony Vitello. There's a lot of coaches, including one prominent one, not named Jay Johnson, by the way, in college baseball, that a lot of people view as a saint. But behind closed doors, he's elitist. He is. If you're not part of my rotation, I don't want to talk to you. Talk to my assistants. So, at least with Tony, it's like the opposite. Everybody views him as this evil force, too brash, not professional. But in actuality, he's a nice guy, cool guy. But yeah, pretty pumped up for this year for SEC baseball. We're going to get to this segment a little bit sooner today. What did Lane Kiffin tweet today before we get to our guest? And here we go. Lane Kiffin tweeting out a photo of the 225. There's Gordon's face, cross, Marriott, the red, white, and blue. Rat poison. Only 6 teams signed a top 15 transfer class and a top 15 recruiting class. LSU, Notre Dame, Texas, Texas A&M, Miami, and Florida. You know what's interesting to me is people are sneaky high on the Florida Gators going into next year. Sneaky high. We'll keep it going. Tom Haar's retweet. We'll skip that. Not because I hate Tom Haar's. Joe Cox. Right there. What town in Louisiana has the best Mardi Gras that no one knows about except the locals? The answer is New Roads. Lane Kiffin says, what a perfect night at Commander's Palace. There you go. And there you go. Welcome, Meg Casper. And that's it. A little bit of a shorter What Did Lane Tweet Today segment. All right. I need some energy in the chat, man. I'm happy to have him back. He's here. John Eads.
What's up?
LSU Baseball. You're back on the grind. I think what people really want to know is LSU Baseball the toughest to cover of the sports?
Well, it depends on what you define as toughest or what would make it tough.
My thing is baseball is harder to shoot back when I did kind of what you did. Is that true or not true?
Yeah, it's the hardest sport to videotape for our purposes, I'd say, for sure. Just because the weather and what you're seeing plays such a factor. Like basketball, it's pretty straightforward. It's indoors, pretty much. There's lights, whatever, so you can see everything. Football can be difficult. I have trouble following the football in NFL stadiums like Houston and stuff because it blends in with the stands and the crowd sometimes. So that can be a little difficult. But baseball is so hard because the ball is so small and it moves 110 miles an hour sometimes. And if it's cloudy, it blends in with the clouds, and it's shooting purposes. It's hard, but if you can get it down and practice enough, it's extremely rewarding and I'm trying to think of the right word to use, satisfying when you can get it down and do it decently, somewhat decently.
I don't know how you do it. Like, I couldn't do it. I just simply could not follow the ball.
Hours of practice and hours of missing shots and being motivated to stop missing shots. Like I missed Stephen Milam's walk-off in Hoover 2 years ago and some other stuff, and that just pissed me off so much. Like, you know, we don't play for Super Bowls and lose Super Bowls, but that's my Super Bowl, like capturing a big moment. And if I don't get it, I'm motivated to get it next time. So, yeah, I took that personally.
Yeah, we got I've had a few people saying, when are you going to get John Eads on to talk baseball in the world, man?
Thanks for having me.
Chance appreciated your Nate Yeskie interview.
Thanks, Chance. Yeah, just did that on Friday. We're doing an LSU Baseball preseason special for the first time in a long time on our channel.
Good.
So all this time I spend at the box and stuff is actually getting put to more use than just, you know, having a couple of tidbits to share with people here and there and stuff. So I interviewed Nate Yeskie on Friday just about the pitching staff, why he likes Baton Rouge, because he's been here for 3 years now. It seems like he loves it. Probably retire here. It seems like, you know. Sorry to kill a fly.
You're good.
So, yeah, thanks for checking that out. It's on YouTube. He had a lot of really good things to say. That guy, if you ask him anything, he's going to talk for 4 minutes, and he's going to make it colorful and interesting. He is a great guy to chat with, man. He'll talk to you about anything and everything, not even baseball related.
Well, it's because you gave him the shot. You gave him the Joe Burrow cigar shot here.
He did that twice. He did that then, which was sick, and then he did it walking off the field after they beat, I want to say UCLA. I don't know why. He just did it, and the camera was rolling. So, I've seen people use that as like their profile picture and stuff. I'm like, that is freaking cool. You know, that is awesome.
Yeah, I just watch your baseball stuff just nonstop.
You see him after the ninth.
Well, thank you.
And Tigers win.
So go watch the full thing. You could see it for yourself. John Eads, WAFB. All right, so I think a lot of people, John, know who Stanfield is, obviously, and Curiel and Milam. But the big story here is this young incoming class of freshmen. So walk us through what you've learned about who some of these impact freshmen could be next year for LSU baseball.
Yeah, it's a small class. I think smaller than they would have liked to bring in. But there's a lot of reasons for that. The draft, they lose guys to the draft every year. They were able to sneak a couple through this season, which was exciting. I think they also felt because of that, they needed to use more with the portal. But there's also this. They brought in a huge freshman class last year. And a lot of those guys got opportunities last year. Now they're going to get some really big opportunities this year as sophomores. So not as big as they'll typically bring in. But what they lack in numbers, they don't lack in talent and what they're getting. And some of these guys have already popped as soon as back in the fall when I started going to scrimmages. Let me go through and name a couple guys here. Ethan Kloss, I think, is hopefully I got to ask him if that's how he says it. I guess I have a pronunciation guide right in front of me. Kloss, yep, like Santa Claus, yep.
There you go.
He's the first one that pops up numerically, if I'm not mistaken. He's a shortstop, second baseman, third baseman, and he really stood out to me actually in the fall. He turned some double plays, made some nice diving catches, showed some pop with the bat. I don't think he's going to play a ton this year just because they're so loaded in the infield in terms of numbers and stuff already, but you never know. Mason Braun, that's a guy that everybody's talking about. I did a sit-down deal with Koki Riley, Hunt Palmer, Matthew Musos, some other media guys in Baton Rouge here, and I wasn't even asking about freshmen and stuff like that, and they just found a way to bring up this guy, Mason Braun. He's a guy from South Bend, Indiana, was one of the highest-rated first baseman prospects. He's mainly played right field just because in these scrimmages, they already have Zach York at first, and they've been putting, Seth Darter, Braden Simpson, a whole bunch of different guys at first base, so they don't really have a place for him. But I think he does have a future at first base. He could be a star there. What people love is his bat and how well he hits the ball. Like every time he puts the bat on the ball, it's at least 100 miles an hour exit velo. Sometimes it's 110. He hit a grand slam in their exhibition in Biloxi against Sanford, which was awesome. And there's been a handful of times where he's just absolutely scorched the ball to right field, and I don't even know where it landed. I didn't see it land. I couldn't even find it in my camera. So I think he's a guy you'll see get in the lineup, kind of like John Pearson last year in a pinch hit situation when they want a righty-lefty matchup. He's a guy that Jay will put in, and I don't know that he'll continue to play in the field, but he's going to get an at-bat and an opportunity to provide an impact there.
It's interesting, and I should clarify this. Nate Yeskie is the pitching coach, and his job is so important. But, for me, I look at this lineup and I just keep going back to the monster, right? It's crazy that he's turned into this legend already in Baton Rouge. He's a guy that you've interviewed quite a bit. I'm a big believer in his charity, what he does for the puppies and all of that. So what should we expect at a Monster Milam this next year?
Obviously, the defense is great. He had like 5 errors, I think, all of last year, which is one of the best shortstop seasons in college baseball history. So defense is locked down. Nothing's changed about that. He still continues to turn double plays himself, which is just he makes it look so easy, and nobody's even surprised by it anymore. The thing for him, though, is going to be the offense. Can his splits be balanced when he's hitting right, when he's hitting left? And he really turns it on in the postseason. Like, he kind of struggled with consistency in SEC play, but really the 2 years he's been here, we already mentioned the home run I missed in Hoover a couple of years ago. He also hit one in Chapel Hill, maybe multiple. Can he channel that postseason Stephen Milam more consistently in the regular season? That'd be the question. And man, he had a hell of a weekend to wrap up preseason. He had 2 home runs, had some singles mixed in there, some doubles mixed in there. So if he can be more explosive offensively during the regular season and not just when it gets to May and June, then he can really put this whole thing together and put himself in a great position individually with the draft. But also it's going to help the team a lot as well along the way.
So obviously Kason Evans is the pitcher that people should know. What else and how else do you feel about the staff, especially after you just spoke to Nate Yeskie?
It's going to look different. It's not going to be, I don't think at least, it'd be great if it was like last year where Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson could roll out of bed and throw at least 7 innings for you of shutout or 1 or 2 run ball. It's going to look different, but in a good way. Like, there's not going to be unnecessary, unneeded stress put on guys that aren't ready to handle that. So they have a lot of guys. It's a unique situation in terms of guys returning, dudes they got out of the portal, and then some of these freshmen. Like, they have so many experienced players in the bullpen this year, guys that have started games, guys that have thrown in high leverage situations. That's going to be what they're going to lean on this year. They're going to ask Kason Evans and Cooper Moore to go as long as they can until they start hurting the team, if that's such a thing. But they're not going to force them to go 6 or 7 if they don't have 6 or 7, because they have so many dudes in the bullpen, righties, lefties, guys with good secondary pitches, guys with a complete arsenal, guys that can just throw straight gas that they can put in the game. And I don't think they really had that last year. They'd get to Sunday, for example, and Chase Shores was your starter to begin the year. But after that, it's like, well, who are we going to put in now? Are we going to run Talon out twice? Are we going to run Evans out twice? I don't think it's going to be like that this year. They have so many different guys that can come out of the bullpen. Some of them can extend and throw as many as 4 innings, I think. So Yeskie said he feels like they have 5 to 7 guys that could close out a baseball game. And I'd agree based on what I've seen. So Evans, didn't dominate in the preseason, but he's adding pitches. He's been trying to pitch with a different mentality where he's not trying to strike everybody out. And the guy absolutely dominated against Little Rock in the regional. He dominated against UCLA and Omaha. I don't have any concerns about what Kason Evans can do. He's got it all up here as well. Cooper Moore, who they got from Kansas, has been lights out, especially since coming back from the break. He's looked like a completely different pitcher. So I'm really excited about him. The way I see it, Evans is your Friday guy. Moore is your Saturday guy. And they're certainly capable of throwing you 6 or 7 really good innings. But if they can only go 5, my point here is that they have so many pieces in the bullpen to mix and match with that all hope is not lost if they don't have it on a particular night. I don't know if that was the case last year. If Cade and Anthony didn't pitch very well, they were kind of hurting for numbers and options to go to in the bullpen.
Kind of interested in Cooper more because I'm such a football guy that Bixby is like this legendary high school football program. I'm interested to see if he actually played football because
he's pretty big. He may have.
yeah, he looks like he's a tank, man. But before we let you go, because I know you've been run ragged all over the place, we appreciate you always joining us and providing your and part of why I want to highlight you, because I really do think you're damn good at doing this baseball stuff, and I think you're good at doing it all. But
thank you.
This sport is so hard. This sport, I mean, it's daily. It's the whole midweek games and the whole thing. Jay Johnson, you gotten to know him. You've interviewed him one-on-one. You've chased him down plenty of times. How do you feel about how he feels going into this next year, knowing that he's as good as gold, winning 2 out of the last 3?
He just did an interview with Jacques, and he asked him the same question, like, what motivates you? You've won 2 national championships in 4 years at LSU. Like, you've accomplished more than what most coaches do in their entire career, however long or short that is. And his answer was something to the effect of, the championships don't even motivate him. He's just naturally wired to be motivated to do the best job that he can.
Turn me up.
I know. And he's only, I think he's not even 49. I don't think his 49th birthday's coming up maybe or something. He's so, like, he has so many years still ahead of him if he wants to use them, man. Like, if he was being complacent, would he be on the phone all day in Omaha while trying to win his 2nd national championship, setting himself up for the 3rd? Not to mention he was doing the same thing when he won his 1st back in 23. Like, he just never stops. He's always planning ahead, thinking ahead. And I think he's excited. Like, I'm reading this book that Glenn Gilbo wrote about with Skip Bertman and stuff. And I was just reading about the 96 and 97 teams, totally different baseball teams. Like, one was predicated on the gorilla ball, home run. And then the next one was more about the defense and the small ball and the pitching. I mean, it's the same thing this year. They have different guys. There's probably not as many stars on this team as there were last year, but they're going to find a different recipe to get the most out of this team and hopefully win a national championship. Same thing with 23 and 24. 24, they fell short, but damn, they were playing their best baseball of the year at the perfect time, and they came up just a couple plays short of going back to Omaha again. So I know this, that by the time tax day comes, by the time the postseason comes, whatever the ceiling of this team is, he's going to have them there. You hope it's good enough to get them to Omaha and win a national championship. We'll see. Time will tell. But it's going to look different. There's going to be a different recipe to winning a championship this year. It's a different deck of cards, as Nate Yeskie said, and he's got to find a way to put it together, cook up that recipe for national championship number 9.
Thoughts on York?
Awesome. Great kid, first of all. I've talked to him a few times. Super funny. Like, probably a kid you could just spend all day with doing whatever. He and Jake Brown, that's a dangerous combination from a personal standpoint. Like, those two are just, they seem like goofballs in the best way possible. Also a hell of a baseball player, though. Dominated in the fall. The power was on full display. Hit a bunch of homers. Hasn't had a great couple weeks here, I don't think, since coming back from winter break, but I saw all I needed to in the fall. And the thing with him is he's also great in the batter's box. Like, his swing decisions are sound. He likes to walk. He doesn't like to strike out. You look at his numbers. He had a lot of walks when he was at Grand Canyon. But if he puts bat on ball, it's an issue. I think he'll be great at first base, too. He's very vocal, supportive of the pitchers in between pitches and stuff. I think he has great feet. People have complimented him for his feet. For a big fella, it says 295. He doesn't move like he's 295. Like, I'd put him at left guard and have him pull and on some pin and pull sweeps and stuff, man. So he's got a good glove around the bag. He picks the ball well. I think he's got it all, man. I think he's going to be a great player. I'm not sure that anybody else is going to play first base this year than him most of the time. So, and
Zion Theophilus.
Sure. Yeah. You asked me about the freshmen, and I only gave you 2, and I kind of skipped through the rest of them. So I apologize for that.
No, you're good. You're good.
He's looked great. I think that I don't know how much he'll get involved this year. But I'd say he's at the top of the list with Marcos Paz in terms of the freshman pitchers that could see the mound this year, because Nate Yeskie told me what impresses him most about Zion is his mentality. Like, he's a freshman, but he doesn't act like it, He's been able to slow things down. This adjustment to the college level hasn't been too much for him. And I got film of it. Like, the other weekend, he struck out like 5 guys in 3 2/3, I think, and he was working through the starting lineup of Coryell, Stanfield, York, and he did it again, like 2 weekends in a row of great starting pitching, putting up zeros. So I could see him seeing the field. People really like Marcos Paz. He's got a really good arm. Some difficult pitches to hit that people have talked about. Another freshman to keep an eye on. Anybody else? Let's see.
Dax Dath. Did I say
Daffy. Wait, Daffy. Yeah, DAH apostrophe THEE is the phonetic. So Daffy. Yeah, 7th-year senior, man. But apparently he's got like a ton of different pitches he can throw. And they know exactly what his role will be. It will probably be to come in and throw an inning or two out of the bullpen at some point and just shell the plate with a slider, a changeup, a curveball, a fastball. You don't know what the hell you're about to see. That's what I'm saying. This bullpen it's exciting because you have so many different guys that are going to serve different roles. And when you are only responsible for doing a couple of things and you get really good at doing those couple of things and everybody on the team is doing that, that's a very dangerous situation. That's what they got.
All right, so last thing. I always give you something way off the wall.
Sure. I'm ready.
John Eads, WFB is where you need to follow him. I thought about you a few weeks ago when there were this chatter about Young Boy in Tiger Stadium.
Oh, I would love it. Yeah.
So I'm just going to say it aloud. Yeah, I mean, there's no one that's repped him harder. You notice there's not any LSU stuff. There's not any Syracuse stuff. There's not any.
There's nothing on these walls except for that.
Yes. There's no Bob Costas, Mike Tirico, Carmelo Anthony.
Love him. But no.
So, yeah, you love him, but you don't love him. So, Young Boy, if you do perform at Tiger Stadium, you got to give John Eads a one-on-one.
I would love it. That'd be great. I already said there's a guy I work with, Perry. It's like, yo, if he's doing this concert, we got to work it, you and me, because he's a Young Boy fan too.
Yeah.
So, hey, Jelly Roll and Post Malone are coming or whatever. Jelly Roll just did a song with Young Boy. So that's where my head went first. Like, I wonder if maybe we could sneak him in for that one song or something. Lane Kiffin's apparently behind it. So he's got a lot of pull. I would love it, though. It would sell out. People, it'd be great. I know that there's other things involved with that, politics and stuff probably, but I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, so. I think they're gonna do it. For some reason, I think in my heart of hearts, this is actually going to happen. Now, I'm not as big of a Young Boy fan as you are. It's not. I listen to different styles of hip hop, but then again, I'm a mid-2000s kid. You're younger than me.
Yeah, I came up in a different era. I will say this. Apparently, Chris Martin, LSU Baseball strength and conditioning coach, he posted a Spotify Wrapped, and his Spotify, I guess, is hooked up to the weight room for LSU Baseball. And the most listened to artist was Young Boy. So,
oh, wow. Yeah. Well,
what does that mean? I don't know. Could mean good things. We will see on that. But
and I do want to say people should go follow Chris Martin. And we're not talking about goal play. We're talking about the LSU strength and conditioning coach. He actually replied to one of my tweets about like proper squat form. I was like, this
okay. He will. If it's weight room related, he's probably going to answer. Yeah.
And you lift, right?
Sometimes.
Because that's what people tell you, dude. Eads is buff, man.
I just lift the camera equipment. That's it.
Dude, yeah, it'll get you. But we appreciate you. We'll check back in here in a couple.
Can I ask you a question before I go?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
How'd you get the nickname Carter the Power?
Oh man, that's crazy. I was a student at LSU Media. It was my first ever assignment, and they had me go with another student reporter.
Okay.
And the week or the night before, I watched a documentary on a famous athlete by the name of Phil the Power Taylor.
Okay.
And I signed off just joking around. I am Carter the Power Bryant. So they took me to like a thing, and I hate it because like I kind of gave myself my own nickname, but I was joking around.
Yeah.
So I then go to the my student media boss, and he said that the professor at the time, I won't name her name, hated that I did that. She was like, "This is a professional operation. You shouldn't do that power junk or whatever." And I remember my boss at the time, his name is Chad Veens. That was his name.
All right.
He said, Carter, so-and-so was so mad at me that you did that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, God. So we want you to keep the nickname to keep
I love
this
it.
off.
Okay.
They did not want me to lose it because it made her mad.
Yeah.
And it actually came back to bite me because she gave me an F, and she failed me out of a mansion class. True story.
Yeah.
So
Just for that.
It was her getting her lick back on me.
I don't know if I would have survived that class in college either then, because you got to have a little fun sometimes.
You got to have fun. You
Yeah.
got to have fun, because this was me just doing the student media thing. But when I actually took her official class, she
Yeah.
gave me a 0 F because I misspelled Drake Nevis's name on a story I did.
Oh,
and so I had to retake the class. Andrea Miller,
just for that.
just for that, I swear on everything. That is exactly what happened. But yeah, that is the origin of the nickname. Now, here's what I'm going to do, John, since you asked me a question. Do you know, this is deep cut.
Okay.
Do you know which sport Phil the Power Taylor is famous for? It is an obscure one. It's not baseball or basketball or whatever.
Can I get another hint?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna give you one big hint.
Okay.
This sport,
Uh-huh.
not really a sport, but it is a sport. It's bigger in Europe, and it is one of the most popular sports played in pubs and bars around the world.
On TVs or like actually played?
Like, it's actually played in pubs and bars. Like, people play this sport often. It's only a couple you could choose from for that.
I guess I'll go darts.
There you go. You got it.
I was thinking maybe arm wrestling, but I don't know. Yeah, all right, there we go.
There you go, Pierce got it. Yeah, Phil the Power Taylor is a 17-time world champion dart player. That's how much of a nerd I was in college.
Wow.
Everybody else was out drinking, having a good time, being a socialite, and my nerdy ass was watching Phil the Power Taylor documentaries.
Your priorities were exactly where they needed to be, and I'm sure it was on ESPN The Ocho as well back then.
You would bring up the Ocho. I love it. But once again, I cannot stress this enough. John, you've gotten to know me a little bit. I am a sports media nerd. I love when I see really good work. And you know you're doing good shit when you have Nate Yeske pointing at you. And I watch your interviews with Jay Johnson. He wouldn't, like, you wouldn't say this, but I'll say it on your behalf. He likes you. He likes you being around. You can genuinely see when your camera's on him how much respect Jay has for you and what you've done for the sport. So I appreciate the coverage you bring to LSU baseball. Knowing that you're not from Louisiana, it's easy for me to talk about it because it's my team. Jay's winning a lot of shit for me.
Yeah.
But you doing this as an objective journalist while at the same time immersing yourself into all these stories, it's very important, man. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to everybody in this chat. So if you ever need anything from me, man, let me know. We'll talk soon. Okay, buddy?
Likewise. Thank you for the kind words and having me on. And it's a privilege to do what I do and where I do it and who I do it for. So I mean that through and through. And I'm looking forward to another great baseball season, man. Hella memories for the next 4 and hopefully 5 months coming our way.
Let's go. All right, John,
Yeah.
we'll talk soon, bud.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thank you, my friend.
See, bud. Yeah, I'm not told that story in a long time. But I do get that, and that is exactly what happened. Maybe a few details because it was so long ago. And if you guys want, I can ask Chad Veens to be on the show. Because I remember they were like, dude, so-and-so, I'm not going to say her name. It's no point in bringing that back up. And so-and-so didn't like it. But we want you to keep it. But I'm going to be honest. I didn't really like it. I'm fine with it because it just has been a part of what I've done throughout my career. But I love my name, Carter Bryant. It's the name that my parents gave me. There's family ties to Carter Bryant. Carter's a great sports name, obviously Vince. And Bryant's a legendary last name, Kobe. So there you go. But yeah, look, I'll pull them up really quickly just to let you know. I'm not just making this up. I've not actually looked at his profile in a while. Phil the Power Taylor. I would love to meet him one day. The Crafty Potter. Look, darts. Pierce, what do you know about the 26-gram Target Signature Gen 11 darts? What is laterality? Right-handed. 14-time world champion. 16-time world match play. Monster, dude. The GOAT. 214 professional tournaments. So, yeah, I respect all sports. If LSU won the meat judging competition away from Texas A&M, I'm celebrating that. Biatch. I'm celebrating it. But, yeah, like I said, moving forward, there are way better channels that'll cover LSU baseball than me. All right. I'll be honest, I've just learned the names of a lot of these guys in the past like 24 to 48 hours. Not out of disrespect, it's just, I mostly just stick with what I'm good at, which is football and women's basketball. But, with the portal and all these new names, I'm really excited for this year's baseball team. I think a lot about last year's baseball team. You do lose a lot of the glue guys. Obviously Cade and Ianson are the two biggest losses, and you lose Bear Jones, who was a controversial player. The opinions on Bear Jones was very split with his inconsistency and all of that, but you do lose him. He was mostly good, as many of you know. But, you lose Pearson, championship experience, Braswell, so on and so on. I still think this team's going to be good. I just do. But I also think it's kind of strange for me to say that because, like I said, I don't know anything about any of the other teams. Now, we'll take a few more here. Once again, in the next 5 to 10, we'll answer as many as we possibly can. Carter, do conferences in college football still have different styles to you? And if so, what would you say the SEC style is? Yeah, I don't think conferences necessarily have styles anymore. I think more so the coaches do, right? Like different coaches have different ways for them to play. The team that I'm actually the most excited to see from a neutral vantage point is Texas A&M. I really do mean that because they lose Colin Klein and they hire from within for a new play caller. And you do that and you don't have an offensive-minded head coach. And the thing that cost you the playoff last year was your offense. So, for me, I think Texas A&M has a chance to be a disaster next year. But they were able to re-sign Craver. They do bring Marcel Reed back. But what's very fascinating here in the SEC going into next year is that you do have quite a few of these teams that feel really sour about how their seasons ended, even though they had a playoff appearance to their name. Take Texas A&M for instance. Everybody in their heart of hearts does not trust Marcel Reed. They just don't. In their heart of hearts, they do not trust him. They can kind of see through A&M's easier schedule. They can kind of see some of the cracks. The LSU win doesn't look as good as it once did, and the LSU performance doesn't look as good as it once did, and so on and so on. So you have that. And you don't have Colin Klein anymore, who was phenomenal. Then you move on to Alabama. I don't think we will ever see in college football history a team win a playoff game and their fans be as concerned as they are about their team as they are now, especially those fans being that of Alabama. Boy, they were out on Kalen DeBoer. They were out, and rightfully so. You take a look at Alabama. Don't pay attention to just results. They played 3 games versus premium opponents at the end of the year. 3 games. And all 3 of those games were away from Tuscaloosa. 2 of them are neutrals. 1 of them was on the road in a playoff situation. Alabama, in those 3 games, and this will help you out as a football fan or an analyst or whatever, when you divide games up into halves, you can increase your sample. So you divide those 3 games up into halves. You have 6 halves. 1 of those halves, Alabama played good football. And that was the second half of the game versus Oklahoma. That was it. In all of those other quarters, halves, they were ass. They were ass. Beyond ass. Kim Kardashian ass. BBL ass. And then you have Oklahoma. How many Oklahoma fans feel comfortable going into this next year? You get Mateer back, but you lose R. Mason Thomas. How do you feel about the team if you're Alabama or Oklahoma? I think most feel good. You do get Satania back as well. Should be a good team. But yeah, it's a fascinating situation because there was no reason for Oklahoma to lose that playoff game. And one of my hotter takes is Indiana was such a super team last year. They were truly a great, great, great team. Alabama was such a better matchup for them. And I'm just telling you right now, I'm not a big Venables guy when it comes to being a head coach. But as a defensive play caller, he's probably the best. He's probably the best. And Venables with time to prepare versus Indiana, knowing that he had already probably started a scout on Indiana prior to the Bama game, I just think he gives Indiana a tougher run for their money. I do. Something else about Indiana's run that is somewhat rare for a modern college team is Indiana never actually played a quarterback who could run in their playoff run. They played 3 statues. And when you have a great team, what normally can beat those great teams as underdogs is if you have a quarterback who can run. So, I just think Oklahoma would have been a way better matchup for Indiana. Indiana still probably skull drags them, but still. Do I trust Marcel Reed? Yes, I do think he's good. I do. You can't play as many snaps as he has up to this point and just become terrible without an injury. It's a little bit different than Garrett because Reed has 2 full years of starts under his belt. So he should be good. They get Craver back, and if Craver's healthy, they'll be fine. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I would be very worried if I was a Texas A&M fan right now. Very worried. We'll take a look at a few of these other FCC teams. I'll pick one more to discuss, and we'll continue the convo tomorrow. Actually, I lied. No live stream tomorrow. I have college basketball duty tomorrow. So we'll go a little bit longer here because of that. As much schedule analysis as I've done, one team where things kind of set up nicely for them is Alabama. Things do set up relatively nicely for the Tide. At Kentucky, Kentucky will be better, but they'll start slow. Florida State, man, that's a mess. South Carolina, obviously, we know the challenges with them, but they're probably not going to be that great. At Mississippi State, Georgia, at Tennessee A&M, I think Alabama's got one of the more favorable schedules. Back-to-back road games, and you get the Chattanooga game before Auburn. You're one of 4 teams to have a win that late in the year. I think that's a pretty big advantage. I do. Pegasus says, I feel like SEC teams have to be fast now. Big 10 teams are big. Big 12 is more defense and running the ball now. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do. All right, y'all. That'll do it for me. Big thanks to all our super chatters. That is led by the great LA Mom. Don't forget, I've got to shout him out. And Keith was the first commenter under our Zach Grace membership and Patreon film study. So it's up for our patrons as well. My breakdown of LSU's fullback, H-back, tight end hybrid that'll play for them next year. He should be a pretty good player for LSU. It is up, and it's for your viewing pleasure. Big thanks once again to the great John Eads. It is so important for all of our guests that you go tag them on Twitter and say thank you for joining us. Okay? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Shout out to our friends at Labor Therapy. You got to see tonight. We got to go commercial free tonight. Thanks to our friends at Labor Therapy. Now, of course, Google plays some spots during my streams, but on my end, we didn't play any spots tonight. Our friends at Labor Therapy said, no worries, Carter, you got an interview. You do you. So go check them out, LABORDE therapy.com. And tonight we are doing, I sometimes do this for dinner. I don't know about you guys. Breakfast sausage. That's what I'm having for supper. Let's go.